We are only sick of ourselves when we don't like our secrets. Sometimes when you share a secret with someone, the other person might just say, "Listen, I've been through that too," or "I've done that too." It stops making you feel like an outsider. Oftentimes, shame will make you feel like you don't belong anywhere. If you keep who you are and what you desire in darkness, it will be the same place where your secrets will also be located at. And by keeping that hidden, you sort of reinforce the idea that what you may have about you that is, I guess you may consider, uniquely bad or broken or weird or quirky, right? It will make you feel like, yo, none of these people who I'm with or who I hang out with, it just never seems to work out. I always had to tell my ex this. She always told me that she didn't feel like she belonged anywhere. And over the years of knowing her, I realized a lot of her misery was rooted from her not being honest with herself and other people. She would lie to her family, she would lie to her friends, she would lie to me, and most importantly, she would lie to herself. The specifics about those lies are nobody's business besides her and I, but what I found interesting later on was that I recognized that she would lie as much as she did because she was shameful of herself. Shameful that she made mistakes. Shameful that she did something bad to someone. Shameful that she was entertained or desired something, right, specific. It wasn't very difficult for me to deal with that because I was a safe place to embrace the things that she was ashamed about, the things that made her feel like she didn't belong. It didn't really bother me, you know. I think I also felt like guilt and shame mixed in at the same time. Like, this may sound like a paradox, but you're gonna feel like you don't belong anywhere because you're too busy trying to convince family, friends, partners, just people in general, of this false version of yourself. This is what makes you eventually end up feeling lonely despite people being around you who acknowledge you. But why do you do that? Why do you lie? Why do you put on a mask? I mean, it could be because the real you has been rejected, right? Many people think you're too weird, annoying, or any other negative characteristics, right? If not that, then maybe you're putting on a mask because you seek social validation so desperately and it's exhausting subconsciously. So you end up feeling alone deep down. You know, a person going through deep subconscious shame, and I say subconscious because they may not even be it may not even be something that people articulate about themselves. They don't even realize, they don't even have self-awareness that they have a lot of shame about who they are deep down as a person, and it doesn't even go through their mind. But like, you know, a person who is like that consciously or subconsciously, they oftentimes face an issue where they refuse to simply accept it. They refuse to accept that this is what they currently are. And it's nobody else's place to tell you what you currently are. But if you let others influence you like that, then that becomes another issue. Yet, that would have never happened, right? If you accepted or came to terms with your inner shame. So you end up better knowing who you are as a person. So this wouldn't affect you. Again, you get what I'm saying? But by doing this, other people can't throw you off like that. Shame tends to come from a place of believing something is not repairable, right? And this is what I kept telling her too. And when I was telling her this, I had to keep repairing things for her. Like, yo, look, you did something bad, okay? In the past or recently, you made a mistake. You did something silly and foolish, but that doesn't mean you are bad. Doesn't mean you're dumb either. Stuff happens. What's your game plan now? Okay, you made a mistake in the past. You made a mistake just now. Okay, what are you doing now? What are we doing to repair this? You know, this like accountability here. You're like, what are we gonna do now? There's no reason to let it consume you. What's the action here? If you just accept the mistakes you made and the quirks and all these other things about the way you are, you wouldn't really be entertaining the thought about not belonging anywhere. It's it's better to just accept hiccups or quote weird attributes or traits without feeling inner shame. However, it's worth remembering that think about how this may affect other people though. There's a difference between being shameless and disruptive. Rather, I think they could coexist very easily. Some people have attributes that bother and frustrate others. it's harmful to others, or rather it doesn't necessarily improve their own life, rather it hurts their own life, right? But it still falls under the same point I'm making. If you address the secret or shame that you have, embrace it, like I've been saying. But that doesn't mean, don't get it twisted, when I kept saying embracing it earlier in this video, that doesn't mean you let it free, right? The secret or shame doesn't mean you just this is just me, I don't care what anyone says. Like, no, doesn't mean let it free. It means you have to restructure it. If you don't restructure it, you let it destroy yourself and everything around you, and then here you go feeling lonely again. Picture what is needed to either maintain this or let it coexist among those who are genuinely okay with it. And if it's just you got to question whether, again, if this thing is destroying yourself. Instead of just saying, I'm sorry, perhaps also add that, what can I do to repair the damage? Or here's something more practical, right? Like, instead of just saying, I have a tendency to be impulsive, weird, and I don't know, I can't think of another word. I'm just weird, bro. No one likes me, right? I have a tendency to be that way, you know what I'm saying? That mentality should instead be like this. Well, because I know this about myself, I'm a weird dude and I'm impulsive in XYZ, I'm going to find a place for me to be that way. And any people I meet along the way, I'll be honest with them about this as I try to respect other people's boundaries while this exists, right? Because being impulsive, I'm not saying just be impulsive and that's it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, be impulsive, but you got to be responsible for it. You get what I'm saying? This is why I was mentioning earlier about, is this necessarily going to improve your own life, you know? And I said specifically something earlier. I said, with the mentality, I said, I'm going to find a place to be that way, right? That was the key part about that message. There's a difference between shameless versus disruptive again. You're going to keep making yourself feel lonely or like you don't belong anywhere if you keep going around being shameless in crowds that you shouldn't be doing that in. You're doing that in spaces that aren't safe. So it's like a double-edged sword here. You have to embrace and restructure your deeper or deepest inner shames and secrets. But at the same time, you need to know what are the proper outlets for you to restructure yourself in, per se, right? I'm trying to think how I'm going to word this. Like, this is literally why people join communities or social groups, by the way. But sometimes that outlet can just be yourself too, right? Remember what I said about not entertaining the thought of just not feeling like you belong anywhere? Like, you shouldn't even be entertaining that single mentality. And that's the ultimate goal, though. This thought bubble shouldn't even be happening. There's a freedom with that. Some people desire more in life, but are limited by their quirks and their inner shame and their secrets. But you have to adjust, which I think a good portion of people don't really want to do. You know, some people are shameful deep down and don't ever want to address it or aren't even self-aware of it, right? And then they wonder why they're lonely or they can't make friends or this and that, like you don't feel like you belong. Like maybe you're not aware, like there's something like you're deeply like very uncomfortable about yourself with. And then some people are shameless and feel like everyone has to put up with it or experience it. And, you know, those people, then they wonder why everyone fake, bro, you know, and you wonder why nobody wants to put up with you. And you feel lonely and you don't feel like you belong anywhere either. You know, it's, again, double-edged sword here. There has to be a place of balance, consideration, and realizing you are the literal solution to the things that you're hiding. You just got to bring the darkness to the light, either alone or with someone who is willing to accept that. Most of the times, you're going to have to do that alone. And that's the hardest part. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below. Love you guys. I'm out.